Buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches, chicos. Hoy vamos a repasar unidad 4, lección 13, which is your Google form, ¿dónde comemos hoy? Escucha los gustos de los amigos y recomienda un restaurante para cada persona. So for this activity, you had to listen to the likes of friends and recommend a restaurant for each person. So your options were Taqueria Jalisco, Café Madeleine, Hank's Barbecue, Luigi y Sakura.
1. Me gustan los espaguetis con salsa de tomate.
Número 1, I like spaghettis with tomato sauce. So your option was Luigi's Comida Italiana.
2. Me gusta el sushi y de beber el té verde.
So I like sushi and I like green tea. So Sakura, la comida japonesa, was your best option for number 2.
3. Me gusta la carne asada.
Me gusta la carne asada. So I like grilled steak. So that would have been Hank's Barbecue.
4. Me gustan los chiles rellenos.
Número 4, me gustan los chiles rellenos. So those are your stuffed peppers. So that was from Taqueria Jalisco. And I believe we even saw how those were made, los chiles rellenos.
5. Me gusta un buen café con leche y un croissant.
So I enjoy or I like a coffee with milk and a croissant. So that would have been the cafe.
6. Me gustan los frijoles negros con arroz y las tortillas de maíz.
So I like corn tortillas with rice, and I can't even remember what else she said. So that would have been Taqueria Jalisco. To continue moving on, vamos a repasar unidad 4, lección 14. So el objetivo, I can recognize how my food habits and preferences reflect my culture and compare that with those of a young person in a Spanish-speaking country. So here you had to look and see what you could recognize, right? El desayuno de Isaac de Costa Rica, mira la foto y escribe una lista de alimentos que reconoces en español. Look at the picture and make a list of the foods that you recognize in Spanish. So one of the first ones that you should have been able to recognize, café, jugo de naranja, tomate, huevos fritos. There's one or two, I can't tell. Plátano maduro. This one I didn't feel that you guys would have recognized. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with this, but it's basically like, it looks like a banana, but it's not. It's called plantain or un plátano. And you could either cook it when it's yellow and then it's very mature and sweet. That's what it's called, like, or ripened. I'm sorry, not mature. It's ripened. But if you chop it up and the banana is still green, it looks like a banana, but it's much bigger. Then it becomes another dish, or that's called tostones, and that's more of a savory, so salty. This one, plátano maduro, frito, so it's cut up and then it's thrown into some hot oil and it's fried, and it's very sweet and it's also very delicious. Some of you guys, if you're familiar with a lot of Spanish dishes, you would know that this is gallo pinto. Gallo pinto is a dish, a Costa Rican dish that's also in many other countries in Central America. It is basically white rice mixed with black beans, and the rice becomes a little brownish or darker because of the black beans. And then you have natilla here. A lot of you guys thought it was yogurt. Your natilla is like sour cream. Okay, that's used a lot in many of the foods in Costa Rica. And then actividad 2, los alimentos. Escucha a Isaac hablar sobre su desayuno, que incluye el gallo pinto, un plato tradicional de Costa Rica. ¿Qué alimentos de esta lista menciona? So you had to listen to Isaac talk about his breakfast that includes gallo pinto, a traditional Costa Rican dish. Which of these foods does he mention? Check off or highlight the foods he mentions. So these weren't in order, so you guys really had to pay attention. Everything but ceviche and guacamole was mentioned. Okay, so el arroz y los frijoles, that's what gallo pinto is composed of. This I graded a little bit for you guys. Like if you got if you missed one, then you got your 5 out of 5. But if you missed 2 or more, then you got like a 4.5 on this assignment that was just recently graded. Moving on to actividad 3, compara. Compara tu desayuno con el desayuno de Isaac en español. Usa un diagrama de Venn. So here you had to compare your breakfast with Isaac's breakfast in Spanish. Ideally, you would be able to use this Venn diagram. However, it's not possible because if you didn't have a printer, you couldn't use the Venn diagram. Some of you guys are just printing your guided notes, or it's not simply printed because I can't provide it for you. So that's why we did the table instead. So mi desayuno, I kind of already went over this. There's another video already. And then I posted these answers on Google Classroom for you guys. I believe he mentions el yogur when he's talking. I don't 100% remember, but a lot of these are already done. A lot of this you just had to, el desayuno de Isaac, you just had to take from activity 1. Some of you guys only wrote like 2 words for each activity, and that's not cool because there's no reason why you guys can't write a little more. Even if it's for el desayuno de Isaac, you really had a lot of options to write down. You might have lost another half point if you didn't write enough in here, okay? But overall, most of you guys did really well on this activity. All right, so Unidad 4, lección 17. So for today's lesson, which is lesson 17, the objective is for you guys to be able to distinguish when to use ser and when to use estar. The Spanish verbs ser and estar can both be translated into English as to be, and these are 2 verbs that we were working in class in the beginning of the school year, the middle of the school year, and then we come back to it again. So if you remember, ser is doctor, estar is place, right? So ser is when you're describing something, and then estar is going to be, we look more towards the condition of it, okay? So they do not mean the same thing. We know this. For example, yo soy señorita Villacrés, right? So I am señorita Villacrés. Yo estoy bien. I am well, right? So I use both of them to be, right? But in Spanish, I had to conjugate them differently. When used with adjectives to describe, ser indicates a trait that is normal or expected. For example, el hielo es frío, the ice is cold. We would expect ice to be cold, right? Ice cannot be hot because then it is water. So therefore, we're just indicating a trait of ice. Estar with an adjective, on the other hand, expresses a trait that is out of the norm, exceptional, or when there is no normal state. For example, orange juice is good for you in general, but a particular glass that you were trying to maybe, or that you were trying, may be especially satisfying. So ser, el jugo de naranja is bueno para la salud. So generally speaking, orange juice is good for your health, right? But maybe you go somewhere special to a different restaurant and you have fresh squeezed orange juice, right? Then I would say, este jugo de naranja está bueno, right? So this particular orange juice is good, or it tastes good. I'm talking about something specific. Now, some of you guys have asked, how do we know which adjective to use here, right? Bueno, is it reflecting jugo or is it reflecting naranja? So in this instance, jugo de naranja is jugo de naranja. The part of de naranja is describing the type of juice, right? So therefore, de naranja is going to serve as your adjective because it's describing the type of juice. And then bueno isn't describing the type of juice, it is describing the juice in general. Usually there'd be lots of arrows here and I could point it for you guys, but I'm doing my best here with this PowerPoint. Okay, therefore, estar with an adjective is very useful when describing your reactions to foods that you are eating or have eaten. La torta de chocolate de mi abuela está muy deliciosa. My grandmother's chocolate cake is delicious, right? So doesn't mean that all chocolate cakes are delicious. I'm talking about specifically my grandmother's chocolate cake is delicious. That's where I'm going to use estar. The next example is, caramba, esta sopa está fría. So darn it, this soup got cold. There's only one soup that I can think off the top of my head that is meant to be cold, and that is gazpacho, and that's a traditional dish from España, from Spain, right? But for the most part, we all prefer hot soup or soup that's meant to be hot, So then you're talking again about the condition of the soup, okay? So it's not hot, it is cold. All right. Actividad 1, tú necesitas crear 5 frases con ser y el vocabulario de la comida y 5 frases con estar y el vocabulario de la comida. So essentially, you're going to have to go back to the top of the notes. I just put this here in green for you guys to be able to see it clear. Follow the model. So ser, come up with a food and give a trait of it using ser. And then estar, you can talk to me about the condition of the food, right, of that specific instance. So here, el jugo de naranja es bueno para la salud, that would be ser. And then estar, este jugo de naranja está bueno. If it helps you, maybe underline and put in bold the conjugated verb, okay? Just make sure everything agrees in gender and number. Si tienen preguntas, please reach out to me. You guys do have a virtual class, but if you don't make it to your virtual class, you guys are welcome to write us an email. But it's always best if you guys attend these virtual classes because we're able to explain the grammar more specifically to you.